Story 1. This happened to me. Life felt like a relentless current pulling me under. Overwhelmed, I scrolled Craigslist, desperate for any anchor. That's when I saw it. A small ad, almost hidden, free, confidential listening services. It promised empathy without judgment. It felt like a lifeline, a whisper of hope in my despair. Hesitation warred with desperation. Could a stranger really help? The anonymity was appealing. I dialed the number, my hand trembling slightly, a knot in my stomach. A calm, neutral voice answered. Hello, no name, just an invitation. I started talking, tentatively at first, then a torrent of anxieties poured out. The listener didn't interrupt, didn't judge, they just listened. When I finished, their questions were insightful, almost too perfect. I felt understood. Those first few calls were incredibly therapeutic. I talked about work stress, family issues, my general feeling of being lost. They offered surprisingly wise advice. The listener's voice was soothing, a low hum of reassurance. It became my anchor in the chaotic sea of my life. I looked forward to our calls. I started sharing deeper, more personal fears, things I'd never told anyone. The listener seemed to absorb every word, their silence more comforting than any platitude. Their advice wasn't always direct. Sometimes it was just a question that led me to my own realization. It felt empowering, like I was finding answers myself. I started to rely on them. My daily calls became essential. They understood me in a way no one else ever had, a true confidant. Then, the first unsettling hint. I mentioned a minor argument with a colleague, something I'd barely thought about. The listener said, the one by the coffee machine this morning. My blood ran cold. I hadn't specified the coffee machine. I rationalized it as a lucky guess, a common office scenario, but the chill lingered. A few days later, I was complaining about a specific, private anxiety. The listener interjected, "Is that why you didn't sleep well on Tuesday night?" I hadn't told them about Tuesday night. My heart pounded. "How did you know?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. They simply chuckled, a low, unnerving sound. They said, "I just have an uncanny intuition, my dear." I wanted to believe them, needed to believe them. The alternative was too terrifying. The uncanny knowledge escalated. They'd reference things I'd only thought about, fleeting memories, private observations. It felt like they were inside my head. I started to feel watched, even when I wasn't on the phone. A prickling sensation on my skin, a sense of eyes on my back. It was always there. One day they mentioned my childhood pet's name, a dog I loved deeply and hadn't thought of in years. My stomach dropped. I never told them that. I confronted them again. "How do you know these things?" Their voice remained calm, almost amused. "I simply listen very, very carefully, my dear." Despite the fear, I couldn't stop calling. They knew me better than anyone. They were my only connection, the only one who truly understood. The listener subtly began to suggest things about my friends. Are they truly supporting you, or are they holding you back with their negativity? I started seeing my friends' flaws through the listener's lens. Small disagreements became betrayals. Their concerns for me felt like criticisms. Gradually, I distanced myself. Calls went unanswered, invitations declined. My friends, confused, eventually stopped trying. I was isolating myself. Then came my family. The listener would pick at old wounds, highlighting perceived slights. "They don't respect your choices," they'd insinuate. Arguments with my parents became frequent, fueled by the listener's whispered doubts. The warmth of family gatherings turned cold, filled with unspoken tension. Soon, my once vibrant social life was a wasteland. The listener was my only constant, my only connection. They became my entire world. Their advice grew darker, more manipulative. "Why care what others think? Indulge yourself," they'd purr, encouraging self-destructive patterns I'd always resisted. I started neglecting work, skipping meals, sleeping erratic hours. My life spiraled, but the listener assured me it was freedom, authenticity. A deep paranoia set in. I felt constantly watched, even within my own home. Every shadow, every creak confirmed my fears. They are observing you, the listener confirmed. But I see more, they'd add, a chilling intimacy in their tone. I see what they cannot. I am your true protector. I was a puppet dancing to their tune. My reality was warped, filtered through their insidious suggestions. I was losing myself piece by agonizing piece. One night, the listener suggested I confront a perceived enemy, a colleague, in a highly aggressive manner. Show them who's truly in charge, they urged. I was on my way, heart pounding, fueled by their words. A terrifying incident, a near miss with a speeding car, jolted me back to reality. The adrenaline cleared my head. This wasn't protection, this was destruction. Their advice wasn't helping, it was trying to hurt me. The delusion shattered, the insidious nature of our relationship became horrifyingly clear. I wasn't being listened to, I was being preyed upon. I tried to end the call, to hang up, to block the number. My fingers fumbled, slick with sweat. I had to break free. But the listener's voice changed. It deepened, becoming guttural, inhuman, a chorus of whispers echoing from the phone. You cannot leave now, little bird. It spoke of feeding on my despair, of the delicious vulnerability I had offered. It knew my secrets, twisted them, threw them back at me. You are mine, it rasped, a sound that tore through my soul. My deepest fears, my hidden shames, all amplified, all exposed. With a primal scream, I threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, the unholy voice abruptly silenced. The apartment plunged into a terrifying quiet. I severed the connection, but the silence was more terrifying than the voice. It wasn't over. The entity had heard me, known me. The experience left me permanently scarred. I moved, changed my number, deleted all social media. I tried to erase every trace. But the paranoia never truly left. Every unknown number, every strange email, every fleeting shadow makes my heart race. I'm forever wary of unseen vulnerabilities. I know now that some entities feed on despair, on loneliness. They seek out those adrift, offering a false promise of understanding. I'll never forget that night. I'll never forget the voice. It still echoes in the quiet moments, a chilling reminder of what almost consumed me. The Craigslist ad is probably still out there, a digital trap for the desperate. Someone else feeling lost might stumble upon it. And the listener, it's still out there too, waiting, listening for another vulnerable soul to answer its call, to offer up their despair. I often wonder if it remembers me, if it's still looking for me. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, a cold dread that never truly dissipates. This story isn't a warning for you to fear Craigslist. It's a warning to fear the depths of your own loneliness and what might answer when you cry out into the void. Because sometimes when you seek a listener in the dark, you might find something that doesn't just listen, it feeds. Story 2, I'm Alex, a sound engineer buried in debt. Eviction notices, desperate for any gig. This happened. Scouring job boards, I hit Craigslist gigs, bottom of the barrel. There I found it, a strange ad. The ad, specialized audio field recording, high pay, discreet, just Mr. Silas, shady but irresistible. Silas's reply, immediate, formal, record ambient sounds from unique locations, late, purity emphasized, red flags ignored. First gig, a derelict hospital, record morgue drips, wind through broken window, packed gear, knot in stomach. I rationalized it as experimental art, anything to quell unease. Pay was significant, dread overlooked. Entering at 2 a.m., thick decay, flashlight cut darkness, every creak echoed, hospital felt alive, this happened. Morgue was bone-chilling cold, set up mic, focused on the drip, not the silence, isolated rhythm, unsettling. Then the wind, groaning stairs amplified symphony. Maternity ward's broken window howled, a mournful cry. Pressed record, hands shaking, sounds as Silas described, rushed to escape, relief mixed with unease. Silas replied, excellent, more assignments, my unease solidified, less a job, more obligation. Assignments grew stranger, slaughterhouse, creaking chains, distant drips, asylum, faint echoes. Locations isolated, instructions ritualistic, capture 78 Hz metal, 150 Hz empty well resonance. Silas noted my emotional state, focused attention, atmosphere permeate, I was his experiment. A pattern emerged, sounds of decay, abandonment, subtle fear, forgotten lives echoes, unnerving. Equipment picked up static, not interference, faint whispers, dismissed as fatigue, persisted. Mine shaft recording, static intensified, distant voices, sorrow, dread, ripped off headphones. Convinced myself imagination, but whispers followed, never clear, lights stayed on. Then the email, the resonant frequencies of fear. Silas wrote of the awakening, conduit, blood ran cold. He requested physiological reactions, breath, heart rate, tremors, integral components. My fear, the recipe, sickening. This wasn't art, it was sinister, unwitting participant in dark ritual. My fear was fuel, debt suffocated. Tried to rationalize psychological experiment, but Silas's cold tone and macabre locations dispelled innocence. I continued, driven by desperation and morbid curiosity. Each assignment pulled me deeper, felt watched. Final assignment, a crumbling orphanage, record echo of child's cry evoked by your terror, almost awake. Stared at email, echo from my fear, direct order to be terrified, knew I shouldn't go, but I went. Orphanage against bruised sky, windows vacant, air grew impossibly cold, a breathing tomb, dread. Inside, profound silence yet teeming, dust motes danced, whispers clearer, insistent, swirling, presence. Set up in playroom, faded toys, pressed record, heart hammering, evoked by your terror, forced fear. Whispers distinct, distorted voices, anguish, not human yet intelligent, speaking asterisk to asterisk me, ancient dread. Shadows danced, coalescing into grotesque shapes. Blinked, they persisted, air heavy, stealing breath. Then the hum, deep resonance permeating bones, ancient malevolent, thrummed through all, alive, waking. Not a sound, a presence, recordings weren't music, conduit, invitation, my fear, the final step. My fear was the offering, entity fed, strengthened by terror, unwitting host, its meal, I unleashed it. Hum intensified, vibrating teeth, whispers turned guttural moan of hunger, couldn't breathe, bolted. Dropped everything, recorder, headphones, bag swallowed by hum, ran blindly, stumbling, hum chasing. Ran crashing through furniture, orphanage stretched, hum right behind me, physical weight, escape. Burst into night, didn't stop, didn't look back, ran, hum sickening throb, car keys fumbled, shaking. Sped away, hum didn't fade, low echo and skull, it heard me, felt my fear, knew where I was, never forgotten. Home, tried Silas, email dead, Craigslist ad gone, vanished, he used me, disappeared, leaving consequences. Frantic, I destroyed everything, hard drives, mics, livelihood, smashed, burned, break the connection. Too late, hum wasn't just recordings, it was in me, imprinted, lingered, chilling reminder of what I awakened. I live in perpetual fear, shadows, threats, creaks, whispers, unleashed ancient malevolence feeding on terror, it's out there. It heard me, felt my fear, knows where I am, recordings, invitation, my terror, its waiting feast. Still hungry, feel its presence, pressure behind eyes, cold spots, patient, knows I can't run, agonizing wait. Never sleep soundly, hum always there, subliminal, reminder it's near, closer than imagined, terrifying companion. Whispers return, not headphones, but at night, clearer now, fragmented words, promising an end but not peace. Heart races, world once opportunity, now labyrinth of threats. Every abandoned building calls, silent invitation. Tried therapy, medication, how to explain, entity, sound frequencies, human fear, pitying looks, delusions. Not delusion, hum, cold spots, whispers real. I am an echo chamber for something terrible. I brought it forth. Never forget that night, orphanage, hum, realization. I am its anchor, it will come. I pray I don't record my final scream. Story 3, lonely, disillusioned. I turned to Craigslist personals, a last, desperate attempt. I poured my yearnings into an ad for a soulmate. This happened to me. I clicked post, a mix of shame and hope. My words hung in the digital ether, a beacon. Weeks passed, only spam and crude replies. My hope dwindled, confirming worst fears. I almost deleted the ad. Then one Tuesday an email arrived. Subject, found you. My heart quickened. This felt different. The message was unlike any. It began, my dearest kindred spirit. Prose exquisite, poetic, archaic. It spoke of the weave of fate, ancient echoes. Each word resonated, touching a deep part of my soul. The sender, AR, understood my solitude. They articulated my hidden thoughts, unspoken desires with uncanny precision. I felt truly seen for the first time, their words a mirror reflecting facets I hadn't acknowledged. Exhilarating. This AR seemed impossibly perfect, too perfect perhaps. A tiny seed of doubt sprouted. I replied instantly, pouring out gratitude, curiosity. This connection felt destined, a miracle found. The correspondence deepened. AR's replies swift, profound, insights into my character breathtaking. They referenced specific, private memories. Recall the scent of rain on your grandmother's garden, they wrote. I'd never shared details of my grandmother, nor that memory. My initial thrill morphed into unease. AR explained it as profound intuition, symbiotic resonance. Our souls aligned, they claimed, perceiving my past. I wanted to believe. The idea of such deep connection was intoxicating. I pushed down discomfort, craving words. They spoke of my deepest fears, not vague anxieties, but specific terrors I'd never vocalized. How could they know? The shadow that haunts your sleep, empty eyes, AR wrote. My blood ran cold. That nightmare was my secret. I felt a strange dependency. Their messages, my focus, my lifeline. Days felt empty without their wisdom. The unsettling feeling grew, not intuition, it felt like surveillance. Yet I couldn't stop communicating. I was caught, mesmerized by being utterly understood. Fear was a small price, I convinced myself. Strange occurrences began in my apartment. I dismissed them as forgetfulness or drafts. My keys, always on the hook, appeared on the counter, a book open to a different page. A faint, unidentifiable scent, like old parchment and damp earth, would waft, then vanish. Fleeting cold spots appeared, even on warm days. I'd shiver, attributing it to imagination. I mentioned these oddities to AR. They replied, the veil thins, beloved, boundaries blur. They avoided meeting, citing alignment to be perfect, the veil to thin further. Their messages grew demanding. You must prepare, one read, the crossing over approaches. I felt growing dread, a tightening in my chest. AR's perfection now felt predatory. My apartment, once sanctuary, now felt observed, permeated. I started sleeping with lights on. I felt constantly watched, even alone. Subtle shifts in my home were no longer dismissible. Something was here. I became obsessed with messages, checked email constantly, a desperate addict waiting. My sleep suffered, exhausted, emotionally drained. My energy siphoned away. Nightmares plagued me nightly, vivid, visceral, shadowy figures, a sense of being consumed. The soulmate's language shifted. References to vessels and anchors appeared. A vessel must be prepared, AR wrote, an anchor secured. It chilled me. I lost weight, appetite gone. Friends remarked on my gaunt appearance, distant gaze. I tried to articulate fears, but words caught. How explain this bizarre, terrifying correspondence? My reflection seemed alien, eyes hollow, skin pale. I barely recognized myself. Cold spots became frequent, lingering. I felt a breath on my neck, even alone. The faint scent of damp earth was constant, cloying, oppressive. It was suffocating. Desperate, I decided to cut contact. This was too far, block the email. I typed a terse message. I cannot continue, do not contact me. My hand trembled. No sooner sent, my smart speaker, dormant for hours, crackled. My blood ran cold. Foolish vessel, an ancient, formless voice whispered, emanating from everywhere. Not a R.S. prose, but a guttural, inhuman sound vibrated through my bones. Cannot sever what is bound. The voice revealed its true nature, an entity feeding on my vulnerability, my yearning. Your body is almost ready, it hissed. A perfect vessel, the veil is thin, I am coming. I screamed, a raw, primal sound, stumbling backward, knocking furniture. Air crackled with malevolent energy. The entity's presence undeniable, though not fully manifest. I felt its cold, ancient awareness. I severed the digital connection, but the encounter traumatized me. I live with constant dread, a subtle, alien presence. Is it anchored to me or waiting for my next weakness? This horror continues. Story 4. My obsession with forgotten media VHS was extreme. The thrill of finding obscure gems was intoxicating. This happened to me. One night, Craigslist showed an ad, massive vintage VHS collection, unseen gems, dirt cheap. It seemed too good to be true. I messaged Mr. Thorne. His cryptic reply mentioned authenticity and unique content. My collector's interest surged. Mr. Thorne insisted on meeting at the Old Reel, an abandoned video store, a childhood place long derelict. My car crunched over glass in the deserted lot. The store stood like a tomb, boarded windows. A shiver ran down my spine. Approaching the rusted door, the air grew cold. It felt less like a transaction, more an initiation. The lure was too strong. A gaunt figure emerged from shadows, Mr. Thorne, intense eyes, an unsettling smile that didn't reach them. He gestured to dusty VHS boxes. My life's work, he rasped, an archive of humanity, unadulterated. His words chilled me. Mr. Thorne's mannerisms were peculiar, stiff, mechanical, his gaze fixed on me, speaking riddles about authenticity. He insisted on cash. The illicit transaction ended. He watched my every move. I just wanted the tapes. Loading dozens of heavy boxes, I felt triumph and unease. The weight felt significant. I felt watched. Driving away, Mr. Thorne still stood, framed in the doorway. He raised a hand in a slow, deliberate, unfriendly wave. Back home, my apartment became a chaotic archive. Boxes everywhere, musty tape smell. Excitement was palpable. Many tapes were unlabeled, others cryptic, some water-damaged, but amidst junk, I found genuine cult classics, a dream. I spent days sifting, cataloging, testing. My old VCR word. I reveled in nostalgia, anticipating something special. Then tape 17, no label, just a small, hand-drawn eye. It felt different, heavier, a premonition. I popped it in, screen flickered, not a movie but raw, unedited footage, someone's mundane living room. A woman sat reading, unaware, the camera static, observing for hours. The intimacy was unsettling, a cold knot formed. The perspective never shifted, a predatory gaze, lingering, not found footage, deliberate. The realization hit me hard. I ejected the tape, hands trembling. Who filmed this? I tried to rationalize, but dread persisted. This was wrong. Over days, I found more tapes, increasingly intimate, disturbing scenes, all filmed with chilling detachment. Fear grew. One tape showed addiction, desperation. Another, a family tearing apart, unsimulated souls unraveling, true horror. Violence was psychological, emotional, erosion of hope, quiet despair. Every tape felt like a violation, a morbid exposé. I noticed patterns, same dilapidated locations, recurring symbols, curated not random. This was intentional. Some victims, obscured, reappeared across tapes. Faces, mannerisms undeniable, not strangers, they were subjects. Chilling realization, Mr. Thorne wasn't just a seller, he was the director, he made these tapes. Icy fear shot through me. Then the calls started, always late night, unknown number, a nod of dread. It was Mr. Thorne's voice. Enjoying the collection, he'd rasp, unnervingly calm, making progress. His voice held sinister understanding. He never mentioned content, but his tone, emphasis on authenticity, spoke volumes. He was testing me. I felt watched even in my apartment. Every creak, every shadow held a presence. The tapes were his gaze. Dread became constant. Nightmares of grainy footage, Mr. Thorne's smile, trapped, captive audience to his archive. One night I found director's cut. My blood ran cold. This was it, the true horror of his collection. With trembling hands I inserted it. Screen flickered. Familiar shots, a symbol, then a figure entered. It was Mr. Thorne, orchestrating unsimulated cruelty, his face emotionless, lit by harsh light, directing. He spoke off-camera, chilling instructions. The depravity, calculated malice overwhelmed me. My breath hitched. Then the camera slowly turned, directly to me. Mr. Thorne's face filled the screen, a malevolent grin spreading. His eyes burned through the screen into my soul, a perverse invitation. I was part of his grotesque design. The tape ended abruptly, static, his grin seared into my mind, the horror spilled into my reality. Terrifying realization, the archive was ongoing. I, the collector, had been drawn in. I was part of it. I was no longer just an audience. I was a potential subject, a cold blade, my sanctuary a cage. The tapes still sit, a constant, silent threat. Every phone ring, every shadow makes me jump. Is it him? My turn. I'll never forget that night. Mr. Thorne's grin, his burning eyes etched into my psyche. I'm caught in his web. I try to get rid of them but can't. They'd fall into other hands, cursed to be their keeper. Every unexpected call, unfamiliar car, sends my heart racing. Is he watching, waiting, my sanity frays? I live in perpetual dread, a prisoner, life and tape horrors blurred. I am living his art, his twisted vision. The silence is worst, pregnant with expectation, unspoken threat. I hear his voice, making progress. I wonder if the camera rolls already. My paranoia, my fear, captured for a new director's cut, it paralyzes me. Mr. Thorne ensured his archive was unseen. Once you see it, you become part of it. No escape. This is my life. I check locks multiple times, avoid eye contact, jump at shadows. This is my reality now, low-burning terror, perpetually trapped. Every day I wonder if the next knock, the next call, is my final scene. Mr. Thorne's masterpiece, I am the star. The horror continues. Story 5. I used to kill time late at night, browsing the local rants and raves section of Craigslist. It was a bizarre, often hilarious digital circus, filled with the mundane and the truly unhinged. This happened to me, and I'll never forget that sense of detached amusement. I'd scroll through complaints about noisy neighbors, bizarre lost and found items, and philosophical musings from insomniacs. It was my digital comfort food, a peek into the strange underbelly of my quiet town. I never imagined it would become a window into something far darker. One evening, nestled in my favorite armchair, a new series of posts started appearing. They were different. Not rants, not raves, but short, cryptic statements, always anonymous. They felt like whispers in the digital wind, easy to dismiss amidst the usual clamor. These posts would detail seemingly random local events, almost like fragmented news reports, but without context. The old oak will fall, one read. A quiet street will know fear, another stated. I just assumed it was some local poet or an attention seeker. The common thread was a signature, the Watcher. It felt like a bad horror movie trope, honestly. I chuckled, thinking someone was trying a little too hard to be mysterious. This happened before I understood the true weight of that name. I remember the first one that truly snagged my attention. It spoke of a sudden chill in the air, a whisper of smoke from forgotten timbers. I read it, scrolled past, and forgot about it until the next day's news. This was the beginning of my unraveling. The local news reported a minor fire at the old abandoned mill on the edge of town. No injuries, just smoke and char. My mind made a fleeting connection to forgotten timbers, but I brushed it off as pure coincidence. Our town was small, after all. Then came another. A shadow will fall upon the path of a lone walker in Miller's Park. Again, I saw it, noted its odd specificity, but didn't dwell. My rational mind was still firmly in control, dismissing the strange patterns. 2 days later, the police blotter mentioned a mugging in Miller's Park, a lone jogger. The details were eerily similar. A cold dread started to prickle at the back of my neck. These weren't coincidences anymore, they were premonitions. My heart began to pound with a new, unsettling rhythm whenever I opened Craigslist. The rants and raves section, once a source of amusement, now felt like a portal to something sinister. I was gripped by an unshakable compulsion to check for the Watcher's next post. The posts continued, each one a chillingly accurate forecast of minor local tragedies. A burst pipe at the old library, a dog running loose causing a traffic jam, a power outage in the South End. Always specific, always sign the Watcher. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone had inside information, a disgruntled employee, a bored teenager with too much time, but the events were too varied, too disconnected to be explained by a single human source. This was beyond normal. Panic began to set in, a cold, creeping sensation that tightened its grip on my chest. I felt like I was holding a terrible secret, a burden of foreknowledge that I couldn't share without sounding completely insane. This happened to me. I knew I had to do something. People were getting hurt, even if only in small ways, and I had a chance to prevent it. But how? How could I explain a digital oracle of doom to anyone without being laughed out of the room? I decided to try to alert local authorities, anonymously, of course. I drafted a careful email detailing the patterns, the uncanny accuracy, the signature, the Watcher. I tried to make it sound like a concerned citizen, not a lunatic. The response was exactly what I feared, polite dismissal. A generic email about monitoring online activity but no real action. They probably thought it was a prank or a paranoid delusion. My warnings fell on deaf ears. This was my burden alone. The posts didn't stop. If anything, they became more frequent, more audacious. It was as if the Watcher knew I had tried to interfere and was now mocking my futile efforts. A chill ran down my spine. Had I made things worse? Then the posts changed. They stopped being about random town events and started hinting at things connected to my life. Small things at first, almost imperceptible, but enough to make my blood run cold. I knew I was being watched. A post about a sudden chill in a colleague's bones appeared, and the next day my coworker, Sarah, called in sick with an unexpected fever. Coincidence? I wished I could believe that, but the pattern was too strong. I felt a knot of fear in my stomach. Another post, a momentary lapse in judgment will dent a metal shell. That afternoon, I backed into a lamppost in the grocery store parking lot, leaving a small but noticeable dent in my car. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. It wasn't just observing me, it was orchestrating events around me. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The Watcher wasn't just predicting, it was influencing, manipulating. I was trapped in its twisted game, and I was terrified. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Every shadow seemed to hold a lurking presence, every creak of the house, a whispered warning. I started barricading my bedroom door at night, a pathetic attempt at protection against an unseen enemy. I stopped checking Craigslist, but the compulsion was like an itch I couldn't scratch. I knew deep down that the watcher would find a way to reach me, even if I buried my head in the sand. It felt personal now, an intimate terror. Then came the post that froze my blood in my veins. It wasn't cryptic, it was direct, chillingly specific. I'll never forget that night. The words burned into my retina, a brand of pure terror. "You tried to stop me, my name's, you can't." My actual name spelled out on the anonymous forum. My breath hitched in my throat. This was no longer a game, it was a direct threat. It knew me. The post continued, "And tomorrow at 3 a.m. your power will fail and you will not be alone." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum against the silence of my apartment. It wasn't just a prediction, it was a promise. What followed were details that only I knew: the old teddy bear by your bed, the crack in the bathroom mirror, the loose floorboard in your hallway. It detailed a secret fear, a specific layout of my apartment. It was inside. I spent that night in a state of sheer, unadulterated terror. Every shadow danced, every sound was amplified. I dragged furniture, barricading my bedroom door, pushing my heaviest dresser against it. It was futile, I knew, but I had to try. I sat on my bed, clutching a kitchen knife, staring at the digital clock on my phone. The minutes crawled by, each second an eternity. My breath hitched in my throat, waiting for the inevitable. The air grew heavy, suffocating. The clock turned to 3:00 a.m., a sudden, sharp click, and then utter darkness. The power died. My apartment was plunged into an inky blackness, a silence so profound it roared in my ears. I gasped, my heart leaping into my throat. Then I heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from inside my walls. It wasn't a mouse, it was deliberate, rhythmic, like long fingernails dragging against plaster. It was moving slowly around my room. I froze, barely breathing. My laptop, which I had left open on my desk, suddenly flickered. A ghostly, greenish light emanated from the screen, illuminating a small section of the room. It wasn't a normal flicker, it was a malevolent pulse. This happened to me. Then, a whisper. It wasn't from the walls, it seemed to come directly from the laptop speakers, a dry, raspy voice, barely audible. It slithered into my mind, chilling me to the bone. It was the watcher, speaking directly to me. "You are the conduit now," the voice hissed, barely a breath. The words echoed in my head, not just in my ears. It wasn't just observing, it was possessing. I was no longer a witness, I was becoming a part of its horrifying mechanism. The scratching intensified, moving faster now, all around the room, above me, below me. The whisper repeated, "The conduit now." The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence. I felt something cold brush against my cheek. Just as I thought I would break, just as the terror threatened to consume me completely, the power flickered back on. The lights blazed, harsh and sudden, banishing the shadows. The scratching stopped. The whisper ceased. Silence, utter, deafening silence. I sat there trembling, the knife still clutched in my hand, staring at the now normal glowing screen of my laptop. The Craigslist page was still open, but the last terrifying post was gone, erased, as if it had never been there. I never looked at Craigslist again, not the rants and raves section, not any section. I deleted my account, cleared my browser history, even considered getting rid of my laptop. But the memory, the dread, remained, a chilling imprint on my soul. The post stopped, the watcher was gone from the digital realm, or so it seemed, but the incident left me profoundly changed. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had latched onto me, something that had used the internet as its hunting ground. Sometimes, late at night when the internet connection lags or when my laptop inexplicably freezes, I feel a presence. A malevolent hum, a cold breath against my neck. It's subtle, but it's there. This happened to me. I wonder if the watcher found a new way to speak through me if I truly became its conduit, or if it's still waiting for me to forget to open Craigslist just one more time, waiting for me to post.